Hello, everybody. Greetings to all. Welcome to the Snooker Hole podcast. I'm Dan Murren. It has been a few weeks since the previous episode, but the podcast is back. I've had a busy summer in my personal life, my life outside of snooker, but there is a lot to talk about within this sport which we love so much. The first two tournaments of the new season, 25-26, they are in the books. Of course, the Shanghai Masters has just wrapped up a few days ago, so without further ado, let's take a look back at the action in China. Let's start off this episode by saying congratulations to Kyren Wilson, the winner of the 2025 Shanghai Masters. Kyren is a worthy winner of a wonderful tournament. The standard, from the pros anyway, was fantastic. And for Kyren to come out on top of everybody, that is a real feather in his cap. Obviously, he would be one of the contenders. Nothing is guaranteed in life, as we know. But he easily was among the favourites to win this tournament. His route to the final wasn't the easiest. Let's add that factor too. We will, of course, discuss his semi-final against Zhao Xintong. But I think this might seem out of character for me, but a word for Ali Carter. He had a great week. A late call-up due to the withdrawal of Mark Allen. I'm not the biggest fan of Ali Carter. I've said that many times on this show. I find his attitude to be prickly when it doesn't really need to be. I get that to be competitive is a necessity in sport, especially in the modern time. But I find his public persona to be less than friendly. But in Shanghai, he showed us the best of Ali Carter. It was mentioned on commentary, I think it was Dave Hendon who said it on comms during the event, that if you look at Ali Carter's career, the number of near misses he's had at big tournaments, 2 Masters finals, 2 World Championship finals, 3 of those 4 came against Ronnie O'Sullivan. He should have won both of those Masters finals. Ronnie had a great comeback only a year or 2 ago. Stuart Bingham put in one of the great closing out performances to snatch the Masters crown from Ali Carter a few years ago now. Has Ali been unlucky? I mean, it's hard to say you've been unlucky. You have to beat the opponent put in front of you, and in 4 attempts he hasn't done that. He's played well in at least 3 of those matches, but he hasn't taken the crown in any of them. I had a little discussion with a friend of mine, a big snooker fan. Is Ali Carter the greatest player never to win a Triple Crown event? The other obvious name is Barry Hawkins. I say Barry shades it for me. Not only because of the talent, the record that Barry has. Barry, of course, has been a runner-up in all 3 Triple Crown events. I think Barry's contribution to snooker has been greater, and I think all round, Barry's a much more likeable character. And if I had to guess, I'm not a pro player, of course. I'm not even 1% of a pro player. But if I had to guess, I think most of the pro players would probably have more time for Barry over Ali. Just my opinion. I may be wrong. Who knows? But Ali's performance deserves a lot of credit. He showed us a lot of good. His ability to perform under pressure, his ability to scrap. But these are sort of cliches. Most importantly, he showed us his ability to play really good snooker. And I think that does get forgotten sometimes. Ali's personality, his behaviour around the table, he's very passionate. He's not afraid to show his emotions. If he's angry, if he's missed a shot, if he's frustrated, he will let us know that, and he'll let his opponent know that. And I think maybe his raw ability to play snooker really, really well is forgotten. Maybe that's a bit harsh. The important factor for me is there were not many times when he was amongst the balls where I thought that he might not close out the frame. He always looked good. Okay, twice he was 5-2 down and he pulled off a 6-5 comeback twice. That's pretty good. That's very impressive. And he pulled off another great comeback against Mark Selby too. But that shows a combination of skill, experience, and bottle. In the final, also, he was close to forcing a decider, but Kyren Wilson deserved that win. Dave Hendon also, God, I'm quoting Dave Hendon a lot today. He was inches away from forcing a decider, had the white just crept behind that black in frame 20, Kyron wouldn't have had a shot, and he would have been in trouble as well. He would have had to hit that red, and there was a big possibility of leaving a free ball as well. So it was a matter of inches that turned it in frame 20. But Kyron, I said something similar after his match with Sergio. After the decider, I posted on X that Kyron had just demonstrated why he will be a force this season. He's up against a good opponent, Sergio. You cannot be complacent against a player like that. But Sergio in the decider made one little positional error, just ran out of position ever so slightly. The Warrior punished him. All he needed was one chance, and he took it. He was ruthless. Kyron's break building, and I've said it before, has got so much better. I think, honestly, he's a better player now than he was when he became world champion. The confidence that has given him, you can see it. He's trying shots that maybe he might not have tried before, that we wouldn't expect him to take on. He's an excellent player. He's easily one of the best players in the world, possibly even the best. Okay, the World Championship didn't go as he wanted or as he would have expected, I'm sure. But last season, he was consistently successful. And he's kicked off this season in similar fashion. It's hard to see him not being a huge threat at big events this season. And with Kyron, I think there is a slight difference in attitude. Maybe I'm getting a sense of deja vu here. Maybe I've mentioned this before, maybe not, but I'll say it anyway. The rivalry between Judd Trump and Kyron Wilson, in the past, the media, the snooker media, fans tried to stoke something. There was one little disagreement they had, 10 years ago. It's, they hate each other, they hate each other. It's like, well, they didn't hate each other. They just disagreed on something. It's fine. But there really is a healthy respect between the two. Okay, Judd has won many more ranking events than Kyron. But I think there is a difference in attitude as well. Judd wants numbers. I don't think Judd cares where the numbers come from. But Kyron, I think he wants numbers knowing that he had to beat elite, world-class opposition in order to do it. I think there is a difference there. I think Judd would be happier by beating maybe some people who had been lucky to get to the quarters and the semi-finals, maybe even the final. But I think Kyron wants to know that he beat the best to win these tournaments. It's just the impression I get. Maybe I'm wrong, but he's into double figures for ranking event victories now. He's won another big one here. He's picked up a check for £210,000, more than 200 grand for a week's work. If you're a top snooker player, there are worse ways to make a living. Let's look at some other notable performances. The briefly aforementioned Mark Selby, he thrashed Shaun Murphy 6-0. I don't think many would have seen that coming. He then went on to beat, the player who would have been the favourite for many people to lift the trophy in the end, Judd Trump. And I think notably, when Judd Trump is an afterthought in the wake of a big tournament, you know it was a good event and other players played well enough to take that attention away. And in the case of the Shanghai Masters, that is relevant. A match that many were looking forward to, if it came about, and it did, Zhao Xintong versus Ding Junhui. It promised more than it delivered, I think that's fair to say, but it was a good spectacle to see I hate to use the cliche, the godfather of Chinese snooker facing the new world champion, China's first snooker world champion. I mean, this is a huge event in China, no less. Zhao Xintong obviously was in the spotlight, but in that semi-final, Kyron was far too good. Simple as that. And it's difficult to know what to make of Zhao Xintong's performance, not just in that match, but throughout the tournament. Ding has those matches where he just doesn't turn up. Ding, on his game, as we know, is a dangerous player. We all know it. We've seen it for 20 years. But when he's not on it, maybe he's not such a threat, and especially in the recent years of his career. Zhao Xintong showed flashes of brilliance throughout the week, but he struggled when he lost momentum. When Kyron started winning some frames, he didn't have a response. And Dave Hendon said something like this on on the Snooker Scene podcast, and I have to agree. Several snooker fans, online, in person, who I've spoken to, have said that they would be curious to see how Zhao Xingtong performs when he's pushed. It didn't really happen in Sheffield apart from a few qualifying matches, and he did come through those to his credit. The problem is that when he plays well, it's difficult to push him. And because he plays well so often, we rarely see that. But he's human. He's going to have an off day. And I suppose the question is, can he grind out victories when he's not playing well? It's a football cliche. You win when you're playing badly. You nick a 1-0 victory against relegation fodder, even if you're having a bad day. A win's a win. And it's the same with snooker. We've seen the great players do it, the modern greats as well. Mark Selby, Neil Robertson, Judd Trump, Kyron Wilson himself. We've seen them all do it. When they're not quite at 100%, they find a way. Even if they have to make it scrappy, they have to change up their tactics. Whatever it may be, they find a way. And I'll be interested to see how Zhao Xingtong does this season and the following season. During that semi-final, Kyron Wilson romped to what was a fairly routine victory in the end. But I don't think that will be a sign of things to come. I see Zhao Xingtong challenging at the latter stages of several events this season. I think he'll be one of the big boys. I think he will continue the trend that Kyron started last season. The world champion performs well. The Saudi Arabia Snooker Masters is coming up. It starts tomorrow. I'm recording this episode on Thursday morning. Tournament starts on the Friday morning. This time, the tournament is in Jeddah. Last time, it was in Riyadh. Jeddah hosted the Pool World Championship last year. It was a huge success. So it's not a huge surprise to see that Jeddah, another big city, has been given the honour of hosting the 4th major, as WST are labelling it. Some fans accept that, some don't. The players obviously are going to accept it because the prize money on offer is enormous. It's equal to the World Championship, £500,000, £500,000 to the player who wins it. Obviously, last season we had an epic final, possibly the match of the season between Judd Trump and Mark Williams. Mark was one ball away from winning that tournament, but that red didn't go in. Judd took the chance. He had one chance, and it wasn't an easy chance. Judd finished it. A massive feather in the cap for Judd Trump, not only to win a tournament like that and to collect the huge check, but to show everybody that it's not just about break building and flashy, naughty snooker. It's about playing the game that's in front of you, playing the match that you're in. He had one chance. Any mistakes, it's over. But he managed to find a way to clear that table and win it on the black. For me, it's one of Judd Trump's greatest victories. Another criticism of this tournament, which I suppose I agree and don't agree with, I think there are good points and bad points, is related to the prize money and how that can skew the rankings. When I was in Sheffield in April, I was chatting with a couple of snooker fans and they brought up the fact that I actually mentioned it last year because I'd seen something on X, Twitter. What if a lower ranked player flukes a few wins and ends up number 7 on the 1 year list? I think that was, maybe I'm paraphrasing ever so slightly, but the word 7th on the 1 year list came up. And my response was, well, okay, what if that happens? That player has earned the victories, we hope fair and square. Everybody knows the situation going in. It's not a surprise afterwards. Oh, I didn't know there were so many ranking points available. No one is in that situation. Everybody knows what's at stake. And if that adds a little bit more jeopardy, a bit more pressure, we'll see how players perform under pressure. Maybe some will thrive. Maybe some will shrivel. Okay, what's the problem? With that in mind, let's look at the quarterfinal lineup from last year. Sean Murphy versus Zhao Guodong. Okay, 2 players who had great seasons, both won tournaments last season. Judd Trump, Neil Robertson, both won multiple tournaments last season. Ronnie O'Sullivan is Ronnie O'Sullivan. He's still a fantastic player against Se Zhao, one of the most promising players this sport has to offer. Mark Williams, the eventual finalist, versus Jimmy Robertson. Now, many would say that one of those isn't like the others. Jimmy Robertson made the quarterfinals. He picked up 50 grand in prize money for making the quarterfinals. Good for him. Not bad for a not even a week's work. But it's easy to say, but Jimmy Robertson fluked his way to the quarterfinal and then he ended up with a higher ranking, one which doesn't befit his other performances in the season. Well, I disagree. Jimmy Robertson was one frame away from qualifying for the Crucible. And let's look at who Jimmy Robertson defeated in Saudi Arabia last season. In the last 80, Jimmy Robertson defeated Fan Zhengyi, a ranking event winner, somebody who played at the Crucible just this last spring. In the last 32, Jimmy Robertson defeated John Higgins 5-2. This ain't a fluke victory. He comprehensively beat one of the greatest players of all time. In the round of 16, he beat the defending, at the time, world champion Kyron Wilson. What more does he have to do? He's not had an easy draw. He's come through those matches. He's won them. He's made the quarterfinals. Okay, he's lost to Mark Williams in the end. But how can anyone say that he hasn't earned his 50 grand? Even in the stages known as the final rounds, he has beaten two fantastic players, John Higgins and Kyron Wilson. What more can he do to earn a bit of respect? But it is true. A good run in this tournament can secure your ranking for a while, maybe even for a season or two. A bad run could spell disaster. For example, if Zhang Anda has a good run, he can recover a lot of the points that he's bound to lose soon. I don't think he'll do it, but we'll see. But this jeopardy, this is a good thing. This is an extra factor which we don't have at, for example, the Scottish Open. Another positive factor for this tournament is the experience for newcomers, for young players on the tour, to travel to an event in a foreign country and perform, hopefully, if they make it through, against some of the top names for big prize money. Even if a player wins their first match and loses their second match, they're still going home with £4,000. And okay, it's £4,000. We know where the money's coming from, and that's one of the big controversies of the tournament. And let's be honest, this prize money is not being funded by ticket sales. Some of the attendance last season in Riyadh was embarrassing. You can see there's Luca Brissell, one of the recent world champions, and there were 5-6 people in the audience. It's embarrassing. Tourism is a bigger factor in Jeddah than it is in Riyadh. Maybe we'll get some fans from outside Saudi Arabia visiting Jeddah for this tournament, and maybe some Jeddah locals will turn up too. In terms of eventual winners, well, the card is stacked. If we just look at the draw of the last 32, in one quarter we have Judd Trump, Ali Carter, Neil Robertson and Mark Selby. Only one of those is making it past the quarterfinals. Let's look at the third quarter as well. Ronnie O'Sullivan, love him or hate him, he is still easily one of the best players in the world. Mark Allen, Sergio Way and Kyron Wilson. Only one of those is getting past the quarterfinal stage. We could have a last 16 clash between Shaun Murphy and Mark Williams. And that's not even to mention some of the players who will qualify for the later rounds. Those entering in round 3, the last 80, include multiple ranking event winner Gary Wilson. We've got Jack Lazowski in there, always dangerous. Pang Junzhu, one of my tips to really kick on this season. Elliot Slesser, another player we have to look out for this season. He'll be good. But you've got experienced performers in there as well. Stuart Bingham, Ryan Day, David Gilbert, Stephen Maguire, the aforementioned Jimmy Robertson. We can't discount him. He could come up against Zhao Yulong, and one of those isn't making the last 32. Ricky Walden, Joe O'Connor's in there, Wu Yiza, Jackson Page, Lei Pei Fan. There is some serious talent in this game right now, and everyone is going to Jeddah. This tournament, take away the controversy, take away the context. As a snooker tournament, it will be epic. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sure most snooker fans are. Let's see what happens. Thank you for listening to the Snooker Hall podcast. I also want to say thank you to everybody who has got in touch with feedback regarding the recent string of guests on the Snooker Hall podcast. The feedback has been absolutely fantastic, and I'm so grateful for it. Thank you. And also thank you to the guests for taking the time to chat about snooker. If you want to get in touch, the email address is contactus@thesnookerhall.com. Make sure you're following the show on X, Blue Sky, and Instagram. The handle for all of these platforms is at the Snooker Hole. The next episode of the podcast will be a review of the Saudi Arabia Snooker Masters, hopefully with a special guest. Not quite confirmed yet, but I'll let you know. I hope you enjoy the action in Jeddah. I know I will. And until next time, take care.